Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. Heather wanted to go out to dinner the night before her trip, and I didn't argue. I figured a quiet meal might help settle whatever strange tension had been building between us. We picked a small Italian place near our house, the kind with low lighting and tables close enough that you could hear the couple next to you breathe. But Heather wasn't really there. Not with me, anyway. She kept her phone face down beside her plate, checking it every few minutes when she thought I wasn't looking. Her shoulders were tight, her smile was forced, and every answer she gave me was just a little too short. Halfway through the meal, I finally asked, "So where exactly are you going again?" She didn't look up. "It's a girls' trip, Matthew. I told you." "I heard that part," I said. "I mean where? What hotel? What flight? You're going across the state? You think I shouldn't know where you're staying?" She let out a sharp breath, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Why do you need every detail?" she said. "It's 4 days. It's supposed to be relaxing." "I'm your husband," I said calmly. "Knowing where you are isn't control. It's basic safety." She finally looked at me then, hard, cold, almost annoyed. The expression didn't match the woman I married. It matched someone who wanted out of the conversation, not someone who cared about my concern. Then she pushed her water glass slightly aside and said the line I didn't know would split our marriage in half. "You don't need to know what happens on a girls' trip. That's why you're blocked until I'm home." I just stared at her. "You're blocking me?" I said, keeping my voice even. "Yes, Matthew," she snapped. "I want space. I deserve space. And I'm tired of feeling watched. So from tomorrow until Monday, I'm going dark. No calls, no texts, no checking in. You'll survive." She said it loud enough that the couple next to us shifted uncomfortably. For a moment, I thought about getting angry, raising my voice, demanding answers. But instead, something colder settled over me, something steady, something final. "All right," I said, setting my fork down. "If that's what you want." She expected a fight. She didn't get one, and the lack of it rattled her more than anything I could have said. "Good," she muttered, though her voice wasn't as confident now. We finished the meal in silence. She thought she'd built a wall around herself for 4 days. She didn't know she'd just opened the door to something she couldn't control. The next morning, I watched Heather roll her suitcase to the door. She was wearing a new crop top I hadn't seen before, tight jeans, hair freshly done. Not casual girls' trip attire. It looked like she was dressed to be seen. Her phone buzzed in her hand, one of her friends, probably Paige or Nicole. She turned the screen away as she replied, fast fingers tapping. I stayed leaning on the doorframe. "You sure you've got everything?" I asked. She barely glanced at me. "I'm good." There was no hug, just a dry, one-arm squeeze before she grabbed her bag and headed to the curb where a black SUV idled. I saw Nicole behind the wheel, oversized sunglasses, music thumping. Jenna was in the back, waving lazily. Heather didn't even look back as she got in. The SUV pulled away. I stood there for 10 seconds. Then I walked inside, grabbed my keys, and left. Not to go mope around the house, not to sit and wait for some unblocking like a whipped idiot. No, I drove straight to my office. It's not a typical job. I run a risk assessment firm, mostly corporate cases. But before I started the company, I spent 6 years doing freelance digital surveillance and forensic recovery. I knew how to find things people didn't want found. And I'd just been given 4 full days without pretending to be a husband. First step, the license plate. The SUV that picked them up was Nicole's, but I'd seen a second car trailing behind in a reflection off our neighbor's window. I paused that footage from my door camera and zoomed in on the plate, A rental. 30 minutes later, I had the name tied to it. Brandon Ellis, 37, private wealth advisor, 2 condos in Miami, 1 property in Lake Crescent, about 3 hours from here. Divorced last year. A name I'd never heard from Heather. I checked the car's location history. It pinged near our house, then drove straight north, toward Lake Crescent. No airport, no hotel check-in. This wasn't a girls' trip. It was a controlled story, and it was already falling apart. And the best part? She'd blocked me, which meant I could move without her watching, just like she wanted. By Saturday morning, I had more than enough to feel sick, but not enough to act. Not yet. Heather's friends, especially Nicole, had this habit of posting "we're wild but classy" content online. Carefully curated chaos. It looked like your average girls' trip. A few cocktails, a spa towel selfie, some generic food shots with cryptic captions like "No boys allowed." I opened every one of them. One poolside photo caught my attention. The girls were in matching robes, sunglasses on, drinks in hand. Innocent enough until I zoomed in. In Nicole's left lens, there was a blurred reflection. A man, shirtless, short hair, sitting just out of frame. I ran it through a blur cleaner. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to prove one thing. They weren't alone. Another post showed Heather laughing at a long table, a fancy dinner setup in what looked like a rental property kitchen. Nothing flashy, except for the watch on the counter beside her. Not hers. Not any of their styles. I checked the Lake Crescent listing photos again. The layout matched one of Brandon Ellis's vacation homes, recently renovated, newly available. Private dock, 3 bedrooms, fire pit out back, gated road access. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was close to the line, if not over it already. So I called Troy, an old buddy from my surveillance days who now ran drone services for high-end properties. I asked for one flyover of a lakeside house. He owed me a favor. He delivered in 2 hours. The footage came in sharp. Quiet house, 2 SUVs parked outside, no signs of a big group, just a few people moving around. Then, around dusk, the drone caught a shot that made my heart stop. Heather, sitting on the dock, legs dipped in the water, leaning into a man beside her, laughing. He kissed her cheek. It was Brandon. The same Brandon tied to the rental car. The man I never knew existed. I was supposed to be blocked. She said it was a girls' trip. Just her and her friends. Instead, she was wrapped in someone else's sweatshirt, drinking wine on a dock I'd never seen. I paused the frame, and then I saved it. Heather got back late Sunday evening. I heard the car before I saw it. Nicole's SUV rolling into the driveway, music low, laughter barely audible through the glass. I stayed sitting in the living room, lights dimmed, pretending to scroll my phone. The door opened. She came in carrying shopping bags and smelling like hotel soap mixed with cheap perfume. She looked too tanned for a spa weekend. "Hey," she said casually, dropping her purse by the door like nothing happened. "Hey," I replied without looking up. She came over, leaned down, kissed my cheek like a routine, then flopped onto the couch opposite me. "You missed me?" she asked, smiling like the past 4 days hadn't existed. I just nodded. "Yeah, quiet without you." She launched into stories, not specific ones, vague stuff. Paige lost her phone. Jenna drank too much on Saturday. The spa was nice. I got this amazing facial. Blah, blah, blah. I let her talk. She didn't mention Lake Crescent. She didn't mention Brandon. She didn't even say which hotel they stayed at. Just blur and filler. She was good. I'll give her that. Most people trip over lies. Heather danced with them. But I was watching the details. Her eyes didn't hold contact. Her laugh came half a second late. She used the word relaxing too many times. I kept nodding, saying cool and nice at the right spots, like a man listening to his wife, not the woman who'd just spent 3 days in someone else's arms. Later that night, as she went upstairs to shower, she turned at the steps. "I feel refreshed. Honestly, I needed that." I looked up at her. "I bet you did." She didn't notice the weight in my voice. Or maybe she did, and ignored it. After she went to bed, I opened the laptop, watched the drone clip again, and dragged it into a folder I'd labeled Monday. Not for her. For me. Because when people lie with a straight face, you don't react. You wait. And then you set the table. By Tuesday, Heather had returned to normal, at least her version of it. She was back to posting motivational quotes, meal prepping like nothing had happened, and giving me forehead kisses in the morning like I didn't have footage of her wrapped around another man. I stayed silent, not out of weakness, out of patience. On Wednesday, I made a reservation at Orlo's, a high-end steakhouse downtown, the same one we'd celebrated our anniversary at last year. I told her we needed a date night, just us. She smiled and kissed me. "That sounds perfect." She dressed up more than usual. Red lipstick, heels, new dress. We walked in together and got seated by the window. She ordered wine. I ordered water. While we waited for our appetizers, I checked my watch. Right on time. 2 women walked through the front doors, Jenna and Nicole. Heather's face froze mid-sip. I kept my expression flat as the hostess led them straight to our table. Heather blinked. What, what are you guys doing here? Nicole gave a fake laugh. You invited us, remember? Said double date at Orlo's. Figured Brandon would be here. Heather turned slowly to me. I leaned forward. You texted them from your phone. Yesterday. Said I was bringing a client, and you thought it'd be cute if they joined. Heather's mouth opened. No sound came out. Then the fourth guest arrived. Melissa Ellis, Brandon's ex-wife. A calm, elegant woman in her early 40s, wearing a black coat and no makeup. She didn't say hi. She just pulled out a chair and sat down across from Heather. Heather went pale. Melissa slid her phone onto the table and tapped the screen. A paused drone video lit up. Heather and Brandon, laughing on the dock. Melissa looked at Heather. Then she smiled. I figured if you were going to borrow my ex-husband for the weekend, she said, voice cool and even, you wouldn't mind me crashing your little reunion. The table went dead silent. Heather looked around. Nicole stood up. Jenna followed. They didn't say a word, just grabbed their purses and walked away. Heather looked like she was going to be sick. I wiped my mouth with the napkin. You lied to me, Heather. Repeatedly. This isn't dinner. This is goodbye. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I stood up and left her there, alone at a table set for 4. I didn't go home that night. Everything had been prepared days ago. The documents were already signed, the locks already scheduled for rekeying the next morning. At 7 a.m., a courier arrived at the house while Heather was still in bed. He handed her a sealed envelope with my name printed on the front. Inside was a formal separation notice, a restraining order preventing her from re-entering the property, and a full evidence file, drone footage, car rental records, GPS location history, and screenshots from her friend's social media posts. Everything she thought she'd hidden. There was no note, no explanation, just facts. I'd already met with my attorney. Since the house was in my name and we'd never legally merged finances, I had the legal room to move quickly. My bank accounts were separated, passwords changed, her name off everything within 48 hours. I'd arranged for a moving company to pack her things and deliver them to her sister's house across town. No confrontation, no fight, just removal. Later that day, I got a long email from Heather. No subject line, no greeting, just paragraph after paragraph of excuses. She said she'd needed space, that it wasn't like that nothing really happened. She used the word confused 7 times. She begged for a chance to explain in person. Said she regretted how she phrased things at dinner. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to my lawyer and added one line. Log and ignore. Then I blocked the address. By nightfall, my home was clean of her. Not just her clothes, not just her photos, her presence. I stood in the hallway and looked at the spot where she used to hang her coat. Empty. I thought I'd feel rage or heartbreak. I didn't. I felt clarity. She told me I didn't need to know what happened on a girls' trip. So I showed her what happens when a husband finally learns the truth. By Friday, the fallout had begun. I hadn't said a word publicly. I didn't need to. But word spreads fast when people panic. Jenna's boyfriend called me the next day. Apparently, she'd confessed everything the night of the dinner. Not because she wanted to, but because she was afraid I'd release the drone footage to everyone. He dumped her on the spot, packed her things, blocked her everywhere. Nicole didn't even make it home before her secret got out. One of her coworkers had seen the confrontation at Orlo's. It turns out Nicole wasn't single like she claimed. She was engaged to a man in finance who found out through Instagram comments. Heather? She went quiet, radio silent. Melissa, Brandon's ex, kept in touch. She thanked me again. Apparently, Brandon had broken a clause in their custody agreement. No overnight female guests during his weekends. She took him back to court the following Monday. Word is, she got full custody. Brandon's name popped up in a local real estate thread a week later. His brokerage dropped him. Clients bailed. I didn't lift a finger, just watched it burn from a distance. Heather moved in with her sister from what I heard. She tried to reach out through a burner number, left a voicemail saying she didn't know how it all went so wrong. She knew. She just never thought I'd do anything about it. The girl's trip lie? It was more than infidelity. It was a mirror, showing me who she'd become, someone who blocked her husband and unblocked herself for strangers. The only thing she didn't expect was what happens when the man you lied to stops waiting, stops arguing, and just quietly rewrites the ending. I didn't speak to her again. Didn't need to. The silence said everything. It's been 6 months. No chaos, no noise, just peace. The house feels different now. Cleaner. Still. I moved the furniture around, got rid of the couch she picked out, deleted every photo from my phone. I even changed the scent of the laundry detergent. Some people call that petty. I call it resetting the air. I kept working, took on more clients, spent less time in the office and more time outside. I joined a boxing gym, started cooking again. Not because I needed distraction, but because I wanted routine. My routine. Funny thing is, when you cut someone out completely, they try harder to reappear. Heather sent a handwritten letter last month, forwarded by my lawyer. She said she wasn't asking for forgiveness, just wanted me to know she understood now what she threw away. She said losing everything made her realize I'd been the one thing in her life that was real, that she was in therapy, that she was becoming someone better. I read it once, folded it up, filed it away, not out of spite, out of closure. She made her choice on that Thursday night at dinner when she said, "You don't need to know what happens on a girl's trip. That's why you're blocked until I'm home." She thought blocking me meant freedom. She didn't realize that silence cuts both ways. Hers lasted 4 days. Mine will last the rest of her life. I never went public, never posted a thing, never sent anything to her job or her friends. I didn't need to. She self-destructed. All I did was step out of the blast zone. A few weeks ago, I ran into Melissa again. We got coffee, talked about work, laughed about how calm life feels when you don't have to watch your back. We've seen each other a few times since then. No pressure, no masks, just honesty. It's early, but it's real. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough. Heather taught me one thing at least. When someone builds a wall to shut you out, don't knock. Don't beg. Just walk away and build something better behind your own. Thank you for watching.